Ho, 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 and welcome to the Cube Vanguard. This week, starring Kubernetes Klaus. Yes, it's my impersonation of the Kubernetes Santa, Kubernetes Klaus. And just like last year, I've put on my Santa hat. However, there is a difference because last year I learned my lesson. The thing is, this hat goes in the closet the minute the holidays are finished, and it sits in the closet all year. Now, I don't know about you, but if you put clothes in the closet and you don't move them for a year, stuff can happen to them, and they get dusty or whatever. And last year, I made the big mistake of doing my holidays video and pulling out the hat and just putting it on right away. And I noticed after a while my head was getting kind of itchy. No, this is not one of these horror stories of bugs and crawly things. It was just dusty, I guess, whatever, but it got on my eyes as well. So this year, I was smart. I prepared. The holiday hat went in the wash, then it came out, and it's all fresh. Look at even, last year it was kind of stiff, if you remember. Like I could do this and it would stay there. Look at that. This is fluffy, it's nice, it's comfortable, it's even kind of warm. So there we go. Kubernetes Klaus is back. So what is the gift that we're getting this year? Well, this is inspired by Scott Patterson, who's a Veeam legend. And one of the comments that Scott made on one of the videos recently was, hey, is there any way you could kind of go back to the very beginning and start from scratch? Because he and maybe some other people want to get on the Kubernetes bandwagon. They want to learn some stuff, but you can't just jump on halfway through. So I thought, well, okay, that's a good idea because it's been a while since I did some, setup basic Kubernetes videos. And, it's probably be good to get people started up again, that we can kind of move more forward. All right, so today that's what we're going to do. We're Kubernetes 101. We are starting from scratch. And the first thing that I want to talk about is where are you going to do your Kubernetes? What location? So the good news is you don't need a lab. You don't have to, use your company's lab on the sly. You can do this all on your laptop. And in fact, you can do it on a very old laptop, and even a laptop is not very powerful. The problem you have right from the get-go, though, is which distribution to use, which type of Kubernetes. And that is a very good question to ask. And in certain circumstances, there are maybe better distributions for certain tasks than others. Okay, so right away, I want to show you that you should go to the Kubernetes Hub, the Veeam Community Hub, the Kubernetes Corner, because there, as I will point out right now, there are a lot of articles on how to start using Kubernetes on your laptop with distributions. And I've done a lot of them, and some other people too. But for instance, one of the ones that I did 2 years ago, so it's been that long, was how to install Minikube. And you can use Chocolate for that. And of course, as you may or may not know, among the Veeam 100, we have a super expert on that product, Maurice Kevinar. So you can look at his Chocolate videos. They actually had one recently. Chocolate, I don't know how you to pronounce it. I know it's fattening. That's the only problem because this time of year. But anyways, that's another subject. But you can use that to install Minikube on your laptop. Okay, so that's one way you can do it. There's also MicroK8s. This is even better. I mean, it works on Windows too. But if you just got a Linux box, Ubuntu, you can install with the operating system. So those are two variations. And I think you have to really think about this because when you're starting out, you want something as simple as possible just to get you going. You don't want to have to, get a physics degree to be able to install your cluster. So those are great, and take a look and see what you want. I would recommend, though, Rancher Desktop because I find that to be the easiest. It installs, by default, a mini K3s. So K3s is an edge distribution. Excellent, lightweight Kubernetes cluster, single node, and that's what I'm going to use on my laptop today. Now, to do that, and for many of these other ones as well, if you're using Windows, you should really turn on or install the Windows subsystem for Linux. So that's now very easy, especially if you're on Windows 11. But if you want some instructions, I think it's just WSL-install, and I think by default now it actually installs Ubuntu as a distribution. But you can also go to the How To Geek, one of my favorite sites, and just recently, this is December 6, 2023, they have an article on how to install the Windows subsystem for Linux on Windows 11. Okay, so just follow that. Remember, How To Geek, and then December 3rd, or December 6, 2023, how to install Windows subsystem for Linux. And then you can also install Rancher Desktop. Type Rancher Desktop Google. It's extremely easy. Right on the front page, you've got the different types you can install on Linux, Windows, macOS, different architecture, and you're all set and ready to go. So I've done that already. I have it running now on my laptop, Rancher Desktop. And the one thing you want to do, and I think it does it by default, but I might be wrong, is once you've installed Windows Subsystem for Linux and you install your Rancher Desktop, go into Preferences, and I've shown this before also in one of the hub posts. Make sure that you put the checkbox to connect the Windows Subsystem for Linux up to your Rancher Desktop, and then it'll use Ubuntu. So I've got Ubuntu down here. Let's move to my terminal. Give me 1 second. We will move to the terminal, and you will see this is actually the Windows Subsystem for Linux Ubuntu terminal. Okay, so to prove that I have got the system running, I will do kubectl get nodes, and Subsystem for Linux or Rancher Desktop will install one single node, which is fine for our purposes, and you can see it's there. Okay, so we've installed this. I've typed kubectl get nodes. What do I do now? So one of the things you want to do right off the bat is to create aliases and auto-completion, okay? Because it makes your life a lot easier. And I'll just add on that in the official Kubernetes exams now, they've done this for you already. So it really saves time. And what do I mean by that? Well, you saw I just typed kubectl get nodes. That's a lot of typing when I could have just typed k get nodes, okay? So you don't have to memorize this. All you have to do is go to the beloved Kubernetes documentation. And I was on task there, but if you go here to the left side and you type cheat sheet, yes, I said cheat sheet. It's not really cheating. They just, for some reason, named it that way. There is a kubectl cheat sheet. And the first thing that I talk about on that kubectl cheat sheet is auto-completion and aliases, okay? Now, if you're using the default distribution Ubuntu in Windows Subsystem Linux, it comes with bash shell, okay? I mean, if you're using a different shell, you'd have to go down there and look at it, but it's very simple. You will basically type this command in, type this command into your, copy and paste, you don't even have to type it, and then you open up your .bashrc file and add these two commands or whatever's, and that'll allow you to use the aliases and auto-completion. So what I'll do is I will just show you, I'm hoping I'm showing this. Oh, I'm not even showing this. Isn't that wonderful? Why? I don't understand a word. So here I am. Sorry about that. I'm getting used to my OBS system, as you can tell. So what I wanted to show you, and I didn't, is if you go to the Kubernetes documentation website and you go into the search and you type cheat sheet, it'll bring you here to the kubectl cheat sheet, okay? Actually, it's quick reference here, but I know you're not going to believe me, so let's just type cheat sheet. So Jeff cheated on the exam. Not true. See, kubectl cheat sheet, okay? And it actually brings you to this quick reference. And all you have to do is run this command, source kubectl completion bash, and then this one, echo source. And I just normally copy and paste. I don't actually type this stuff. And then you want to add this to your bash RC file. So that's what I want to show you is the bash RC file. So let's go there. And you will then be able to see what I'm talking about. So if I do a VI or Vim, if you prefer, it's actually the same program. I think now in Ubuntu, VI just is a link to Vim, and bash RC, there it is. And in my case, it's opened up right away to where I added those two lines, the alias k equals kubectl and the complete O default capital F start kubectl k. That is for auto completion. So if you've just done that and you don't want to log out and log back in, you could just type this command here, exec bash, and that reloads the configuration files, among other things. And so now if I do a q get nodes, it'll interpret it as kubectl get nodes. And there we go. We have now nodes. Okay, one node, single node. But what are we going to do? So we've done this. We're all set, ready to go. And this is one of these famous things that happens to people who are new at Kubernetes. They get somehow their cluster running. They type kubectl get nodes, or if they've gone to aliases, k get nodes. And then they kind of look at the wall and go, what do I do next? And this is what we want to take on from this part here and get you actually to do something. Because it's a lot of fun. And again, the more you do, the better you get at it. So what are we going to do first? Well, 101, this is our first kind of lesson thing. Let's just run a pod, okay? Now, what is a pod? Well, you know, containers are containers. You've heard about them, Docker containers. Oh, and by the way, there's also Docker Desktop. There's another version you can use for a Windows laptop. The only thing with that is Docker Desktop now is not free. It's free if you're using it for home purposes, so you could install it. But if you're on a corporate computer, laptop, your work laptop, I don't know how that would apply. So it's there. You can use it, but read the licensing just in case. Okay, so we've got our cluster here. Let's type clear to clean things up. Clear, and there. I wish I could do that in my room. Just type clear and boom, doesn't happen, unfortunately. Okay, so a pod in Kubernetes contains a container, but it can contain more than one container. Okay, that's one of the major differences. If you're just talking Docker, you have a container. Kubernetes, you have a pod, and you could theoretically have two containers. And often you do. And one example is if you have an application and then you need some kind of a logging system, you can put it in a sidecar container called a sidecar. So there's two containers right in the pod, and that sidecar is accessing, for instance, the same storage and reading off it or doing something. So that's an example. So that's a major difference of Kubernetes. It has pods, okay? So do you want to create a pod? Yeah. How hard is it? It's super easy, and I'll show you how. So let's do k run. Now kubectl has, if you go to that cheat sheet, has many different commands. You can have k create, k apply, k delete, but you can do k run. And if I do k run, and then I'm going to put the name of the pod, and this doesn't matter what it is. So I can call this Jeff pod, okay? But this is the important part. Well, I mean, Jeff pod is important too. Let's not under whatever my value. Jeff pod, image. This is actually what it's going to run, okay? So very often we use Nginx because it's a nice, fun little image. So we're going to do that, and it's been created. Well, it has it though. So let's do k get po w, and what that's going to do is going to watch. Okay, see, there it is. It's containing the creator. No, it's creating the container. Oh my goodness, you can tell I've had a lot of chocolate. Excuse me, a little bit chilly here in Canada. It's actually raining. It's not snowing, but it's still cold. Isn't that fun? What has just happened? Okay, I typed krun Jeff pod, just made up any name, image Nginx. My system went to where it gets containers from images from, right? In this case, I think it's probably Docker Hub. Grabbed it and then created the container. I have a running container, a running pod. Okay, my pod is running, and when I did k get pod, you can see it running. Now, k get po-w is you're gonna watch. So you're gonna watch everything happening. That can be quite useful. But then some people say, "Oh my goodness, I'm stuck. How do I get out of here?" Well, Control C, and you're out of there. Excellent. Okay, let's clear things up. So you've just created your first pod. That's simple. K run pod, you call it pod if you want, -- image equals Nginx. Boom. You've created a pod with a container. It's running. Isn't that fun? Isn't it simple? Yes. And this leads us to one of the very interesting and wonderful things about Kubernetes. You say, okay, that's great, and I can see the point of that, but what's so great about this? Okay, let's bring in namespaces now, okay? So let's remember that when I created that pod, it's just running in what's called the default namespace, okay? So there's a namespace called default. If you just type krun or kcreate pod, whatever, it'll be in the default namespace. But now let's create a different namespace. So kcreate ns Jeff. I like to call it my own name. I don't know why, it's very lack of attention in childhood, but so there we go. And now let's go kget ns for namespace. I like to shorten things. I'm lazy. And you can see all our namespaces. So we have kubesystem, kubepublic, kubnode least, default ingress, Nginx. Okay, that was me. That doesn't come by default with K3s. That was me having fun. And then namespace Jeff. Okay, so now if I do kget pods -n, so I'm telling it where to look. So that's namespace Jeff. What do we have? We should have nothing. Nothing. So now let's go back by using the arrow buttons to our original krun Jeff pod, okay? And actually, let's just try to type that again and see what happens. That's going to prove the concept, what I'm trying to show you. Oh, look at that. Error from server already exists. Pods, Jeff pod already exists, okay? Right? But what if I do this now? Run, and then I put -n Jeff, okay? So I'm just saying put it into the namespace Jeff, right? It's created, okay? The namespace will allow you to have the same pod name with the same image because it's a different namespace. Now, why would that be a wonderful thing? Let's say you're a developer and you create a program. And let's say after a while you have different versions of the program and you want to test them. Okay. What would you have to do in a normal environment, virtual environment, especially if these applications of yours, different versions of them rely on different libraries, different, updates, all sorts of things. Dependencies change, whatnot. Well, guess what? You're going to need a lot of virtual machines. That is extremely inefficient. But here, guess what? You create different namespaces and you can have different pods. You can actually, because the container is everything it needs to run is inside of itself, you could put it in the same namespace, basically, with different name. But that's a huge advantage of efficiency. So developers can check their programs and can do all sorts of tests in the same environment without having to create a billion virtual machines. Okay. Namespace is nice though, because it's nice and orderly. It keeps things separate. Let's say you've got a complicated application which needs a database and all this, and you're going to create a separate pod for that. Better to segregate them by namespaces. So if we do K, okay, get po, and then a big minus capital A, okay, what that's going to do is go through all the namespaces, okay, and show you what is running or has run. In some cases, you can see some complete stuff there. And you'll see there's 2 Jeff pods, but one is in the default namespace. If you look down here, default, and the other one's in the Jeff namespace, okay? So what have we done today? We've created 2 pods using the exact same image, okay, but in different namespaces because we created another namespace. So right away, you're already having fun with Kubernetes. You're already starting to build things. You can do whatever you want. And the beauty of it is you can just wipe it out afterwards, especially with Rancher Desktop. And I think I showed you one of the videos before. I can show you again, maybe next time. I'll do a special one on Rancher Desktop. There is a reset. And basically what it does is it brings your entire Kubernetes setup back to the original default setup. It was the way it was, which is beautiful, okay? All right, so we've done that. We've had a lot of fun. A good idea, though, is to clean things up afterwards, okay? Now, I did last week do a video about Core, nice little application which shows you leftover junk. If you went nuts creating stuff on the side and whatnot, and it's all over the place. But better than getting that situation, just clean up your stuff after you're done with it. So let's first of all delete our pod that I created in the Jeff namespace. So K delete, okay, delete po n Jeff. So remember, you got to put the namespace. Otherwise, if I don't put that, it's going to delete the pod in the default namespace. Okay, and now if I just press tab, guess what's going to happen? It's going to find it. It's the only one there. Okay, delete that. And I'll take a few seconds, and it is deleted. Okay, so that's gone. Now let's get rid of the namespace, okay? Delete ns Jeff. Boom, that's gone too. So we're cleaning up. And if we do now a k get ns, we should see that there is no Jeff namespace anymore, okay? Now let's also get rid of the pod that I created in the default namespace. Delete po. You could say pod if you wanted to. You could type that, but I'm lazy. And again, I'll just do a Jeff. My system's a little slow today. I've got tons of programs running as always. I'm very busy working hard on a Saturday. Hopefully my boss is watching. Well, no, I don't think some bosses are smart. They say, no, don't. You're not working on a Saturday, Jeff. You're showing off. And that might mean that during the week you're not working because people normally pretend they're working on the weekend. They just don't work anytime, right? Just making that up, obviously. Okay, a bit of holiday humor. Okay, so that's gone. So now if we go back to our, go up and type kpo minus a, we have no more Jeff pods. They're all gone, all right? Okay, so there you go. What have we done today? We created our Kubernetes system, or gave you some instructions of where to look. We created a pod with container in it. We created a namespace, and then we created the same pod, but in the namespace with the same name in the different namespace. Isn't that great? And that's just the beginning of what you can do. There's really no limit. And as we progress forward, you will see just how much fun it is. The things you can do. It reminds me of the first time I came to contact with virtualization after years of dealing with physical servers. And it was like, wow, you can do all this stuff. This is the same thing, but you can squeeze things down much more. So it really is something else. All right, that's enough for this week. Happy holidays, everybody. Doesn't matter what you're celebrating, Merry Christmas or whatever. The main thing is please stay safe, be responsible, have fun, and say thanks for the good things that happened to you during this year. That's one of the things that I'm trying to learn to do more and more because there's so much to be upset about, so much to be depressed about. Sometimes just for a few seconds to focus on, okay, what happened to me this year that was good can really brighten your mood up. So hopefully you'll have great, happy holidays. And I'll see you next week on the Cube Vanguard Cube Clause show. Bye-bye.